Madam Margaret, let's appreciate her well. So next is Mr. David Ongoro, an assistant chief from Rarieda. Welcome, Mr. Ongoro. And please let us not repeat what has already been said for the sake of our time.
Thank you very much to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior and National County. Good afternoon. As mentioned, I'm David Opola Ongoro, Assistant Chief for Kukwiri Sublocation, Rarieda Sub-County. I want to talk about a few issues regarding our duties as chiefs and assistant chiefs. The first one, I want to talk about mobility. I want to start by thanking the government for having thought it wise to provide chiefs with motorbikes to ease their mobility. However, as you may know, I want to say that not all chiefs have been issued with the motorbikes, and it's a challenge because they have to look for other means when going about their regular duties. Another challenge I want to mention on the same note is that the motorbikes which were issued, there is a big challenge of spare parts. These motorbikes, to access their spare parts, is not very easy. So when they break down, it really makes the chiefs not perform as required because they will be paralyzed, they cannot move here and there. I also want to recommend that if possible, because these machines have a time span. The last time the chiefs were issued with the motorbikes is so long, and because every machine has a lifespan, we recommend that the government considers replacing these motorbikes at least in a span of every 5 years, so that the chiefs are well facilitated in their mobility. Having said that, allow me to talk about an area where we perform issues of crackdown. I want to say that I want to take the first opportunity to praise the government for having stood very firm to support chiefs when conducting their crackdown without any intimidation. However, you'll allow me to mention a few challenges that we encounter when doing the operations or crackdowns. The first one is the challenge of transport. In most cases, when we get the culprits, transportation to the police stations becomes a challenge. You know, we are always on motorbikes, and transporting these culprits with the motorbike becomes a very big challenge. So the other area that we encounter, though on isolated cases, when the crackdown and arrests are done and exhibits recovered, in some isolated cases, we realize that these people get to court that they were arrested appear in courts. And now that begs a question on where these exhibits disappear in between. I also want to address another challenge, and we plead as chiefs that we prevail upon the courts, the office of the ODPP and the courts. Most of the culprits we get to court, they receive leniency. The leniency the courts give is just questionable. The penalty that these culprits we take to court receive or sentence does not match what or the amount they are taken to court with. We really plead as chiefs that some intervention be done. There is an area also I also want to address in line of our duty, areas of response to distress calls. Most of the times, as community members, because most community members, it's the chief that they see around. Ndio serikali wanaona ako karibu kabisa. And at times, a chief is even woken up at night, and you find yourself having no other option but to respond to this distress call. In some instances, when responding to these distress calls, our colleagues have received challenges. Most of these people, sometimes they are violent, and the worst part of it, in the event that the chief responds to this distress call, and maybe the suspect gets injured in one way or another, or when running away, then there are instances where cases have been turned against the chief. And we appeal to our colleagues in the police force that they should always take, before they take action to achieve thorough investigation and even inquiry, a very good inquiry should be made to see that it is not just a mere allegation, but actually the chief had something that, or an area where he missed. So allow me to give a case example of a situation that we have now. One of the assistant chiefs for Kaugagi, Udendo sublocation in Siaya County, recently had a case when he responded to a distress call of a suspect of a cattle rustling case or a cattle theft case. The culprit, in an attempt to run away, sustained injury. And right now, we have information that the assistant chief, is about to face court action. We really appeal that the matter be investigated thoroughly before the assistant chief faces any action. That aside, I also want to mention an issue on chief's climate action. This was a very good initiative from the government, and I'm pleased to hear today that the tree cover in Siaya County has improved. It has been testified before us here. However, I want to say that as much as the chiefs have tried, and the figures you had, there still exist a few challenges that need to be addressed. In most cases, during the chief's climate day action, most of the residents always know they are going to get tree seedlings from the chief to plant back into their homes. Even if we have identified an institution, then they expect even to have some to go and plant in their homes. We always rely on our partners, local partners, but at times they also fail us. So it is just our humble plea that for us to sustain and make these days very effective,